Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome, my friends. My name is Vincenzo, and welcome back to my channel, Fountain Pen Therapy. This is a kind of the trifecta, as I called it. Since Thursday, Friday of last week, and today's December the 10th, I announced that I would be previewing these three skeleton pens. I've now posted the reviews for the Mahjong T6. I've posted the review for the Hongdian A6, and what's left is my Jinhao 100 hollow skeleton pen. Here it is. Stay tuned. Let's compare. These are really interesting pens, and let's see how Jinhao does. Stay tuned. Okay, so there's the pen. Now, what I've noticed, first thing I'd like to show you is perhaps what I put you on screen, the website that gives you the choices that you have. You can see there's that red, they're all gold overlays with the red resin underneath. Then you have the black one, which is the subject pen that I've chosen, and then you have the transparent one. But what I noticed, and I thought perhaps it would have gone under a different name, but there are really two different motifs. You have this motif, which is, the skeleton is slightly larger, if you will. And then you have the other one, which is with the overlays are much tighter. And you know what? I think I'm going to order one of these just because I like and they're probably much lighter. And it, that resin kind of stands out a little more, and it's an interesting mix. I thought perhaps that was just another pen. But it looks like it's, at least in AliExpress, it's being identified as one of the models under the heading Jinhao 100 Hollow. So it must be the Hollow series, and of course you got them all here. And so you can have the black resin, you can have the green resin, which is really interesting. You have that light blue, and you have that red, but that red really stands or speaks to me. And maybe, we'll be able to order it. And as you could see, unlike our friends at Hongdian, Jinhao, for $15 Canadian, it gives you fine, medium, or extra fine. So I got 3 nibs. And Hongdian just gives you fine and extra fine, and then gets you to buy the medium one at $15, $20 because it comes in a package of 3. And a little greedy, Hongdian. You have great pens, but come on, give us the choice. I think they've got to give us the choice, and if enough of us tell them to, perhaps they'll listen. Doodlebutt, tell them to have medium as a choice. Inquiring Minds, where are all my seniors there? Scream at these people. They'll listen to you guys, okay? There you have it. Okay, so let's get back to the pen. Here's the Jinhao, very nice. First of all, on the outside, you could see that, these beads or rounded chain motif is very, very nice. It's got underneath, it's got that black resin. That's what I've chosen. In terms of the clip, that's that classic round ball clip of Jinhao, stiff but functional. You've got the Jinhao branding on the nib, as we've seen many times before. We have Jinhao written on that bottom part of the cap, and we have that gorgeous, I think it's gorgeous, finial branding with the typical logo or branding of Jinhao, which is a really nice touch, and it's kind of a satin finish, which makes it all the more interesting. So there you have the top finial. The bottom finial is just a flat metal finial there. So there you have the pen on the outside. I think it gives you the nice features. You see this little black overlay there, which gives it a nice touch, if you will. Let's see how many turns. That's 1. That's 2. I might say 1. It's 2 3/4. Yeah, 2 3/4 at least, to reveal that classic Jinhao nib, which they don't identify. Um, they all have something to learn from each other. And, Angdian does it really nicely now. You've got beautiful lettering that tells you, how big the nib is. Same thing with Mahjong. I believe that Asvine does. You don't know, Asvine does that as well. But Jinhao hasn't come around yet. Not at least not on these smaller number 6 nibs or these classic nibs. They do have it on the number size 8 nibs though. And I guess they've got to exhaust their inventory of these nibs before they can move on. So there you have it. In terms of that section, there's a little flare there. Very nice. I don't believe the section is at all slippery. As I've mentioned with some of the other pens, because they're hollow, or at least they're not solid barrels, they're slightly lighter. That threading, which is that plastic, is very, very smooth, not intrusive at all. So even, you could feel it. There's a little bit of an edge there, but nothing. I don't think that it's anything that would affect long term or long sessions, writing sessions. Pen is very, very comfortable. Okay, very nice. Does it post? Yes, it does. It sits there right at the top, mind you. It doesn't post too deeply, and it does make the pen slightly back weighted, not as much as the Mahjong T6, so it is doable. But I think, again, the pen is just too big. At least for me, it's not comfortable writing. But, some of you prefer that. That's fine. It can be done. It doesn't affect any piston because, of course, this is not a piston pen. It is a cartridge converter. It's one of the things. Jinhao is not going the same direction as some of the others where they're offering these piston fillers. Sometimes I wonder if there's an advantage there or not. What I've noticed is that with a piston filler, it's a little bit more difficult to clean up, and you've got so much ink in there that sometimes you got to do a lot of writing with that pen to get rid of that ink. And if you, like me, somebody who likes to switch up often, then you need to leave that ink inside the barrel for a little while, and you hope that it doesn't dry up on you, or the nib doesn't dry up on you. So sometimes there is an advantage to having a simple converter. And I like the converter. This is like, I guess, a premium converter and there's Jinhao on that ring here. So that's a nice touch. The only thing that there's also an O-ring there. But one thing I did notice, and I hope it doesn't dissuade anybody or any of you to buy this pen, because it really is a nice pen, and it doesn't bother me, but some people it may. Do you hear that? There's kind of a rattling. It's as if it kind of, I don't know if it's that converter that's rattling out in there, but I noticed that it doesn't move. So it doesn't rattle when you move the pen. It just when you hit the pen, you can kind of, I don't know, there's a noise there that's bizarre. But anyway, that there you have it. But I don't think it should dissuade any of you. If you like these Jinhaos at 15, 16 bucks, it shouldn't really matter. As far as the cap is concerned, there's a big insert there, plastic insert. You also, I don't know if you could see this. Let me just try to see if I could get the camera to show you. Yeah, there's a black step up there. There you have it. So, to improve the sealing. So the seal may be very good in this pen as well, which is a nice touch. So there you have it. That's the Jinhao 100. In terms of design, I guess déjà vu in terms of it being, the classic 100. We'll compare it to some of the other, to at least one other Century 100, and we'll see how it looks. But there you have it. Jinhao 100 Hollow. So let's do a size comparison next, some measurements, and the writing sample. Back with the size comparison. So there you have it. There's the subject pen, the Jinhao. Of course, here you have the Hongdian D1, the Hongdian A6. Oh, let me just turn that. Okay. We have the subject pen, Jinhao 100 Hollow. This is the Jinhao. I don't believe this is a 100. This is probably a Century. Then you have the Asvine P80 and the Majon T6. And I know I've used the same pens for all of these reviews with these skeleton pens, just because I'm not sure that the viewers will watch all of my reviews. And I think, you know, the interesting part here is to kind of compare the subject pen to other skeleton pens. I did throw in the Jinhao for two reasons. One is so that you can see how it compares to the Century, and you can see it's almost identical in terms of size. There is a difference. They've used a different clip there. It's that round ball clip as opposed to the classic Parker styled arrow clip. So there is a little bit of a change here. Of course, it's the older models. The Jinhao doesn't appear on top. It's that scaling that Parker used. And here you have the Jinhao branding. But there you have the Majon Asvine. So here you have your comparison. Okay, so here you have the pens uncapped and unposted. And you can see they're almost almost identical, other than the Majon and the Asvine, which are slightly longer. One thing I did want to mention, one of the reasons why I wanted to compare it with the Jinhao Century, is the tipping, to me at least. Let me just see if I could close up just to compare the tipping of those two nibs. Okay, here we go. And it could just be me, and I think the camera is not really picking it up, but that tipping on this nib appears to be slightly less tipping. Well, you know what? On the camera, you can't see it. And maybe I'm wrong. I just had the impression that this nib writes thicker than this one. And I haven't tested this yet. I haven't even inked it. In fact, after this, I'm going to flush it out and then do my writing sample a little bit later during the day. But I just, in comparing both, I just felt that perhaps the tipping material was not as thick. But, you know, now that I take another look at it, it may have been another Jinhao pen that I was comparing it with. The tipping, I think, is equivalent. Just wanted to see if they were consistent, you know. I think I compared it to another Jinhao nib, not this one. So my apologies. I wanted to make a point, and I guess I couldn't make the point because, as far as I'm concerned, they're pretty similar when it comes to tipping there. But we'll see if that medium nib does what it usually does. Okay, so we'll see in the writing sample. And here are the pens posted, and as you could see, oh, this one is not posted properly, but my apologies. Here we go. You could see that the Majon is huge, a little more reasonable, these three. And then, of course, these are the ones that are, in my opinion, post the best. The Asvine, by the way, doesn't post nicely. And the Majon, I would not recommend you post because it turns the piston knob. But if you're careful, you can post it. But just have to keep in mind and remember that that's one of the pens that, unfortunately, piston knob turns when you post. So here you have it, and the Asvine doesn't post very nicely. It just sits there and then falls off. So I wouldn't recommend you post that one either. There you have that comparison. Be back with the measurement table and then the writing sample. Back with the writing sample. Well, first of all, the ink. The ink that I've chosen for this pen is, I didn't know whether I should choose a black ink or kind of a yellowish gold, but I said, you know what, we'll go in between. We'll try to pick a, brownish, reddish, real burgundy, dark burgundy, almost brown ink, which is this Antoine Saint-Exupéry. So the Saint X ink is really nice. These Mont Blanc bottles are just, you got to admit they're overpriced, but it's a nice touch. It's a really nice bottle, and they're collection pieces. So there you have it. That's the ink, just for the swatch, so you can appreciate the color. Here's a swatch of this ink. As you can tell, it's on the camera. It appears to be a little more burgundy than it actually is. But I can assure you there's some, yes, there's some burgundy shading there, but there's also some darkish brown sheening that gives it kind of a brown undertone. It's a little misleading when you see the packaging, because it shows brown, but it's more reddish than that. But there you have the swatch, okay? And in terms of the journal, well, like the other 3 reviews that I've done for these skeleton pens, I've been using this notepad from Yamamoto, Sanson Tomo River paper, this is just a gorgeous pad, by the way, and there's 200 sheets, so we got plenty. It'll last quite a while. And I keep all these reviews, okay, so that I remember what I've said, or just to see if I should change my mind at any given point in time. Okay, here we go. We've come close enough. So let's see what this medium nib does. Yeah, very comfortable, by the way, very comfortable. So here we go. Jinhao 100 hollow skeleton, and it's the black. Okay, the nib, which by the way is absolutely exquisite, is a Jinhao steel number 6, and it becomes important now to say that is a number 6 because of course Jinhao does number 8 size nibs. What are we missing? Medium. Very nice, Jinhao. Very, very nice. The ink is the Mont Blanc Saint Exupéry. Okay, so yeah, this nib is really, really, really nice. I must admit, very wet, very constant. Without saying buttery smooth, I do feel and hear a little bit of, but very pencil feedback. Very constant. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this nib. It's just, forget if it was a Visconti or a Montegrappa that I was inking up last week for the office. And, I inked it up, got to the office, and the nibs were just atrocious. And, I hadn't used them for a while, but, although those nibs, I had already played with them. I had already adjusted them, but, I hadn't used them for maybe several months because they're not among my favorite, but I did want to give them a go. And the nibs were awful. And I'm saying to myself, those are $400, $500 pens, if not more. This is a $20 pen, and look at what I'm getting. I mean, there's got to be something to be said about that. And if anybody asks me why you keep insisting on that, well, it's because these Chinese pens need to be applauded when they need to be applauded. you know. So there you have it. Fast writing. Yeah, you could hear that bit of a pencil feedback there. Actually feels like a pencil. So very smooth. Very wet. Very constant. Nice. Likes and dislikes. Well, not to minimize, the nice nature of this pen, but the first thing that comes to mind here is value. As I mentioned to you, if you go on the website, you see it's $15.48 at this particular day, Canadian, which is almost like $10 American. Okay, 15 bucks. So value to me at $15 or $16 Canadian is just, how can you beat that? You know, how can you beat that? The design, design, I would give it an 8 on 10 just because it's a déjà vu design. You know, it's got that duofold look. But on the other hand, it is a Jinhao 100, so it should have that look. It's just another version, if you will. The build quality, I think the build quality is probably not as good. I don't like that rattling. The resin is not as, for some reason, it's too plasticky. So I don't think it's at the same level as the Hongdian, in my view, or even the Asvine. By the way, I didn't mention it, but this is extremely smooth. There are no edges there at all. So, hats off there. So built, I wouldn't say it's a dislike, but again, it's not 10 on 10. I would give it kind of a 8 on 10. Okay. The nib, however, rivals all the others. And you know what? For me, it's a 10 on 10. In terms of dislike, it's that rattling that I'm not sure I've identified, but it's there. I just want to try something. No, I thought maybe there was something rattling on its own there. When I close that up, it's like as if it's loose in there, So there you have it. Probably wouldn't do that if that converter was not that premium converter with the metal turning knob. Had it been probably the knob, just a simple, cheap plastic converter, I would bet you that I didn't do the test, but I bet you wouldn't hear any rattling at all, So there you have it. That's really the only dislike that I would have for this pen, and it's really, really I'm nitpicking there, but so, is it a go-to pen for me? Absolutely, 10 on 10. Yeah, it's going to be in my pen case for many, many, many times. There you have it. Sign my review. Thank you very much once again. That completes that trio of skeleton pens that I've... it's actually 4 if you include my Asvine P80, which I reviewed last week. So I've reviewed most of the more popular skeleton pens that are available. Maybe one day what we'll do at the end of the year during the Christmas holidays is I'll do a kind of a runoff or a best of, with the splash with the lights and the tuxedo and all the rest of it. And we'll be granting the Fountain Pen 2024 or 2023 Pen Awards. It's a tradition. I did it last year and I'm going to do it this year. So stay tuned for that. That's upcoming probably during the holidays and maybe in early January. I'm going to get all those videos out for you guys. Ok, allora grazie molto ragazzi e ragazze. Statevi bene. Attenzione a voi and ciao.